Hello everyone, I'm Mikael, and if you don't know me before, I'm a therapist and I live in Ericeira, and I also really love surfing. Alright, today I'm sitting here with Susann Björklund.
Hello everyone.
Susann is a very special guest for me. She's a spiritual teacher and healer from Sweden. Hello Susann.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. We have really grayish weather right now in Sweden. It's supposed to be snow, but it's not snowing.
Yes, but we are happy anyways.
Yes, we are.
So, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself, Susann?
The classic self-presentation. Well, here we go. I feel I have been talking about this story so many times. But I realize many people find this fascinating. I usually say, for me, this is very normal. But here we go. I remember coming to Earth. I remember seeing the planet. I was given a presentation about what was going to happen on this planet. And I wanted to come here, so I accepted it. And then I remember slowly coming down, because you go a bit to and fro before you are old enough so your physical brain is in place. And I got a lot of information about this place because I didn't know anything about it. I was given a map on how Earth would look like, what was wrong with this place, and what was going to happen basically. And I mean, what was so striking then, I didn't understand that no one else remembered who they were. So I was asking a lot of people, who are you? Do you remember anything? Do you remember God? And no one remembered anything, and that was a bit of a shock to me. And when I look at the nature, I looked at the animals, they looked fine. But when I looked at the humans, I saw something very scary. I saw something that looked slightly crazy to me. And then they explained to me that it is because they are disconnected from themselves, from God. And God is yourselves. And I tried to imagine what that would be like. If you're disconnected from yourself, you don't have knowledge. You don't remember who you are, where you're from, why you are here. And to be on this place, but to not know at all why you're even living here.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy.
Yes.
So I remembered asking people, like, what do you know about God? And the first time I asked that, and someone gave me a reply, and they talked about this man who was nailed to some kind of cross, and I was horrified, because that was my picture of God. And I was like, what happened to who? And are people this horrible towards each other? That was what struck me. How can people do this towards each other? And I was shocked that we have locked doors. Like, why do we have locks on the doors? From whom? For who will attack you? I didn't understand time. I didn't understand you were in a body that would slowly grow. That was also very confusing. I didn't understand different languages. For me, it was just a thing has a name, has a certain meaning. You can't give it just random names. Why would you do that? And I was confused about a lot of things.
Yes. It's very fascinating story, and thank you for sharing all of this. For me, it's so beautiful because I don't remember anything, zero. But everything you say, I know exactly what you say. And when we had a talk, there was so much things that just so it's so beautiful, and I honor you so much for what you're doing, and I really see what you're doing. And I thought we can talk a bit about what is going on in the world right now.
Yes. Well, to give the short version, I guess, and we can go into details. When I came here, first of all, my first feeling was that this place isn't real. I felt like I was in a nightmare. And then I came to understand it is the version that you created when you are at this distance toward yourself. It's connected with you don't know who you are. You automatically end up in an illusionary place. And what we're going to see now and what is unfolding is that light is gradually removing itself from darkness. And what happens then, if you can imagine that light is everything, light is life, light is electricity, love, harmony, everything. And the opposite of that, darkness, is, for lack of better words, lack of knowledge. It's the anti-life. It's just the anti of everything. And when people come down here, they get an ego. And when I explain the ego is necessary for you to be able to be in time, in linear time. And the purpose with linear time is so that you also can have free will and you can make choices. So while you are here, you can understand to make positive choices for yourself or negative choices for yourself. And you can learn by making different choices. But if you are in a harmony state, you don't have really free will, because you don't have the free will as in you can make mistakes, because everything is in harmony. So there are really no choice to make anything bad. It's just a harmonic state. And there is eternity. So anytime that you want to develop, you must expose yourself for what you don't know. So you end up, you're going from a harmony state, you jump down to darkness, to chaos, to that chaotic state. And there, it represents everything you do not yet know. Like if you know the space or how a room looks like in daylight, and you walk into a complete dark room, you wouldn't see anything there. And the reason why you're not seeing anything is because you don't know. And when you understand it, it's like someone turned on the light and you can see everything and understand everything. So you go from an harmonic state, you jump down into this chaotic state. And here you are supposed to firstly remember who you are. But if you remember who you are, you have this persona that can make choices. You can make positive choices, negative choices. You can make positive choices, so you work with yourself and you increasingly become more and more awake. Or you don't know who you are, and you believe you are this persona that becomes the ego. And the ego in its negative connection can't do anything. An ego can't do anything. Your ego can't create. It can't do anything. Everything it does with the help of light.
Yes, and if we can just go back to a bit, because what I understand, since you are coming from space, what we need on Earth is not really the technology.
Exactly.
Because the problem is something different.
Yes. And this is where, yes, every teacher who ever came to Earth came here to teach humans about themselves, because that's where the problem is. They're disconnected from themselves, and the way to repair it is to connect humans back to themselves again. I guess even when I came down here, I have to say I asked for all my stuff that I'm used to having. I thought I could fix all of this in a short lapse of time. Up there it was like feeling like them out here, like a coffee break. And then I go here, I make everything great again, and I go back up. But they said, no, you will live here like everyone else is living here. And I said, how am I going to fix this? Just inspire people and teach them about themselves, because then they will themselves remove the fog around them and they will see. And as soon as they get a glimpse of themselves, they will want to go there. And they will make the journey themselves.
Yes.
And so yeah, it's not about technology. I know that's an ego thing. That's really an ego thing, because this is what I mean. When you come to be spiritually awake enough, everyone has one thing in common when they start to wake up. They all start working on themselves. These self-helping books comes up and everyone is teaching about themselves. So it doesn't matter if you start having, I believe in this particular thing, I believe in this particular thing. That's not important. What's most important is that everyone who takes this first step have one thing in common, and that is that they actually start working on themselves.
Yes.
And you can always speak with other people who has made that passage.
Yes. And then we can talk and dive more into the ego, because the ego is something good, right? It's a good thing to have an ego.
Yeah, it's necessary. You must have it in order to develop yourself. Yes.
Because if we didn't have an ego, what would we look like then?
We wouldn't be learning, because we would be like in a perfect state still.
Would we even know that we exist without the ego?
Yeah, I mean, you would be an integrated you, an awareness, but you couldn't be in a state where you develop yourself by making choices, by learning about self, because you have to be a bit divided from yourself to look at everything from your particular view. So all of us here are God, we are all together really, but we're all experiencing a fragment of ourselves. So we view this world from all our specific angle.
Yes, so it's actually a really huge gift to have an ego. But
yeah, I mean, it comes naturally. It's only negative when people start identifying with it.
Exactly.
There we have the big problem, because then you are walking around with the false view.
Yeah.
And remember, an ego can't create. So when you are in the ego, you're gonna notice certain things. You're gonna be feeling alone, for example, because the ego always feels separate. And you're gonna go out looking for love and looking for people who likes you, looking for opportunities, looking to have a certain status. All of this. You can't really cooperate because you need a defined role.
And it's always looking for it outside yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we maybe can, I find a subject close to this is relationships. And then I mean all relationships. But specifically in relationships, it's very common that person A and person B talks, and one of the person get triggered. With triggered, I mean irritated, annoyed. So what is this? What's really happening when this happens?
I will get back to that question,
okay.
Because I think I need to explain something else before about. I guess talk some more about the ego and what's going on here. Because what's important to know what's going on here now, what was the big event from up there, that was the reason why I came here, because what was going to happen here was so special. It's really a popcorn event. And that is that the humanity now is coming to a global crisis. Before everyone had their individual crisis where they could develop, now it's happening to everyone. So we're going to feel this like a global agenda being rolled out, for example. We're all going to be in the same boat. You're going to find it become a global world. You're going to find it because the feeling is going to be that we're all in this now together, and we're all facing this great, scary thing that we're coming towards. But what's happening is that light is removing itself from darkness now. So now we come to this process where a lot of people is going to wake up because light is removing itself from darkness. So everyone's going to be enlightened. A lot of people is going to be enlightened. But those who are scared, they're going to be really, really scared. So the ego here, the negative ego, is being separated from what is light. So if you're really negative in ego, you can't use light anymore. And if you observe your outer world, I'm going to always give the example of the movies from the 70s and 80s, and everything was colors, and it was love, it was romance, it was charisma, it was beautiful. Then from the 2000 and forward, it started looking grey. There's no life anymore in it. There's no love or anything. There is a lot of going back to retro stuff because we need to find that spirit and happiness again. And we're watching robots on the outside. Because if you're really like negative and ego driven, you can't even have biological life in the end. You're going to end up in a robot. So these technology things we're also noticing on the outside. And so now we are in this phase where there's going to be a big divide because those who are waking up, they are really looking outside and think it's horrible because they can see its ugliness. And the ego will start now it's really living on spare energy because the light is being removed. So you're going to hear it scream, be afraid, increase restrictions, go lock yourself into a wardrobe, because the ego is always looking for separation and it's afraid and it can't create. So that's part of what's going on now, because those who are waking up, they are actively working on themselves and removing their ego. And this is where we're coming to these relationship things. Because you're going to notice people behaving different in relationships. There are those always quick to jump into conflicts. Like if you are having a bad day, you're going to accuse the other person for doing something. But when you start working with yourself and you start realizing this, you increasingly start noticing, I know it's not the other person's fault. I know that. I know it's me. And then you can solve it in a complete other way, and you can both release each other, and you can cooperate, and you can help each other.
Yes, a massive shift.
Massive shift.
Massive shift. Yes, it's just, I'm just so grateful and thank you, and it's just so beautiful to hear what you share. And I thought for people that hear this, maybe, what can I do that moment when I feel that my partner or this one is annoying me?
If you find your partner annoying.
Yes.
Well, you have to of course go within and see why you are not satisfied. And it's not about the other person, it's you doing something with your life where you are not satisfied.
Yes.
Usually I always ask people in relationships to imagine, do you feel that you can like bloom out? Do you feel like you can be totally yourself in a relationship? Like, go within, feel how you want to be, what you want to express. Like, raise out your arms and feel you can do this. Can you feel like this in your relationship? If you can't, that means that either it really is your partner's fault that you can't fully be yourself, or you won't be yourself. But you have to figure this out, because it's extremely important that you can be yourself. Because if you can't be yourself, you're gonna be dissatisfied, and that eventually you will probably take out on your partner.
Build up until it's explodes.
So figure out if you want to be in the relationship, or figure out how you can be yourself then if you still can't be yourself in the relationship. Because unless you are like accepting yourself, expressing yourself, you're not gonna be satisfied. That's the key. That's the key thing you have to do in order to be satisfied. You have to be yourself. Because if you're not expressing yourself, you will not be happy. There's no way you're going to be happy. And this is the same reason why some people say they are so frustrated on the outer world. Let's imagine the outer world is your partner, right?
Yes.
The problem is not the outer world. It is just you who for some reason won't be yourself, won't express yourself. And you might say, I can't express myself because of the outer world. But it's never directly the outer world fault. It can be a reason for you feeling that you can't express yourself. But the reason why you're angry and frustrated is always the same. You are not being yourself. You're not expressing yourself.
It's true. I mean, I think everyone agrees about this. And it's such a good lesson for everyone to bring, because it's so freeing to know that whatever happens, I can always just like, hey, this is happening, and I can just go inside again. Okay, why am I feeling this? Okay, or whatever, I'm angry. But you also talk a bit more about, because identifying with the ego, is it a bit like being identified with the human body?
A bit, yes.
You can find it similar, because people also may be that tend to think that their bodies is gonna also be easier triggered, because like, how can you do this to me? Like, that's a classical
if
ego.
we didn't have a body, it would be extremely hard. How can you do this to me? And you're just something in the air. But that's more accurate. And yes, because the body will be also an ego thing, because the body is separated from other bodies. So the real you is not separated from anyone. So therefore it's increasingly confusing to be identified with a body and to be in a body like this.
Yes, because if you think about fishes in a fishbowl, you would never think that they're not connected with the water. Like, you see so clear that they are one.
That's an interesting point of view.
We people think that it's not like this here. But of course it must be.
Of course it is. But this is what I noticed when I came to Earth, is that people, because they were run from their ego in a negative way, were trying to separate themselves from nature. So when I saw the asphalts, that was the first thing that got to me. Why is there asphalt? Why is someone trying to cover the ground? And then I realized when I was in a house, are we protecting ourselves from the nature and forest? Is that our enemy? like, oh my God, build everything, cover ourselves completely. And when people are walking outside, if you're walking in fine shoes, let's go on the asphalt, do not touch the grass, you know. And mentally, what this does to people is really like you're alienating yourself from your nature. But you are like the fish in the water. You are connected to it. But this is what the ego does.
Yes.
And have you noticed what's happening today in the world? You also see the ego's wet dream of separating yourself from everyone. So this is what's the insanity of the ego. It's not a great master plan. Its only idea is really this idea of separation from the natural, going into robots. It doesn't have a happy end.
Yes, so to sum this up a bit, I'm gonna start just telling me, for me, what really was like, I started to meditate. I do meditation, I do it for 10 years every day, because I realized that I can distance myself from, okay, there is a Mikael, that's what I'm called here, he has thoughts. But for me to find this space beyond that, teached me to have some distance, to realize that, okay, even narrating myself sometimes. And then Mikael got a phone call, and then he got triggered. Like, it really helped me to distance myself from all of this. But if you want to give some advice for someone maybe that's really scared right now,
you're thinking scared like what's going on in the world?
We can start with that. For someone that's just very worried and anxious, like the world is gonna destroy itself.
Yes.
And
well, nothing real is ever destroyed. What's happening right now is that light is being separated from darkness, which means that this cycle is over. This cycle is coming to an end. And what we are facing is not an outer force coming to get us. There are no outer force coming to get anyone here. The life process is holy and is established, meaning whatever work you came here to do, you can do. No one can actually interfere in your life development. So if you're hoping to be saved by someone miraculously saving you from the responsibility that you have within you, forget it. You will have to develop yourself. You will have to make your choices and develop yourself, and no one can interfere in this. But it's popular to say that there is someone outside that is very scary who's going to destroy us all, but that's not what's happening. This is actually only the shadow side that is you are watching on the outside. And before it came in more individual trials and tests, but now it becomes a global thing. But it's not from any mastermind who will make a fortune on what's going on here in the world. It's only the ego, and it's going to look worse on the outside, because the outside is going to be darker, because you are becoming more light. And the more light you become, and the more you wake up, the more gross the outside is going to look like. Haven't you noticed already how much easier it is to see someone who's not in harmony, someone who's strongly ego-driven? Because the more you wake up, the more clear you're going to watch this. You're going to watch this difference. And so you don't have to be afraid of the outside. The outside is just going to be the fear and pain we're all having to face. So it's not something real in itself. Eventually, when it's going to be completely dark on the outside, you're not going to find any love or creativity at all. And we basically see the end of creativity now, special effects and robots. Creativity is slowly dying, actually. When it's completely dark, it's over. So this place actually goes away. Imagine or not. Some people, they're still going to be asleep. They will go to another place. They will continue their development there. The rest will be taken to another place as well, but together. But they have waken up and they have released enough of their ego. So even when this year started, a lot of you is going to notice how much your life changed. Suddenly, you don't have complete other priorities. And these priorities are all about the same thing, is to release the last of your ego structures. So there's going to be tremendous change taking place right now. You don't have to be afraid. The outside is going to be darker, but you don't have to buy into it. You don't have to be a part of it.
So maybe, because when we talk about this, children comes up for me, because they play around. They just, if children would rule this planet, we would basically be running around hugging each other naked, because kid doesn't even see that.
Yes.
So a good advice could
No
maybe.
ego structure.
So a good advice could maybe be for people just to be, if people feel lost and don't know how to start with this, look at children.
Yeah, children and animals don't have ego structures, and there you see how easy it could be. Like, I was making, I've probably joked about this so many times, but it's so true. I mean, everything that is separation is coming from ego. Like, when I was in the military, and there was the connection between military, UN, aid organizations, different nations. They were all trying to cooperate in order to create peace or whatever, to help people. But they never focused on the people who needed help. Everything was about the division between these. The military can't speak with the aid organization, who can't speak with the nations, who can't speak with the UN, who can't speak with the police, who can't speak, because we all have different rules among each other. And it was these crazy examples when the military can't cross a bridge in order to help some people because of the clothes they're wearing. So I just suggested that they all take off their clothes. Because all these problems are man-made. They're not real problems, they're man-made. But the ego does not try to create peace. The ego does not try to create peace. So I was wondering, why am I sitting here in this so-called peace group? Because there's a lot of egos here, and no one here wants to create peace. They want conflict. It's the same in the university when we study peace and conflict. I don't know why it's called peace and conflict, because the only thing they study is conflict. If you want to learn about peace, shouldn't you study a place of peace? So it's all insane. And when you see it, when you start noticing it, it becomes so obvious.
Yes.
So you can't be afraid of it. Yes, you can be afraid of it, like it's crazy and you're afraid of that's going to affect you. But you can't be afraid of it as is looking up to it as something powerful, because it's not powerful. It's insane. It's not powerful. It doesn't have a great plan. They're crazy. It's just ego.
So another aspect can be to just turn off the TV.
Yes.
Stop reading media and just like go to the kids and nature.
Yes.
They're the teachers.
Yes. I mean, look, guys, and even you're going to notice when I say that creativity is disappearing. Look at the news, for God's sake. It's not that creative anymore. It's the same news everywhere on every channel, repeating itself.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, first of all, for your time.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. And for people that are more interested to know about you, yes. I know you have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
One is in Swedish, yes. Light at the Center SE, and Light at the Center.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna link your webpage if people want to get in touch with you. You also do workshops. And I also just want to...
Let's see if I'm going to have workshops in English in the future. Right now I'm only doing it in Sweden. But it's crazy how much response it is right now. But yeah, you can try to get in touch with me. You can follow me and you can try, yes.
Yes, and I also just want to finish, like, what's next for you? What's up next?
I will be traveling around mostly in Sweden on tours with the workshops and different events, and I will be making more videos. Also making videos with Niklas, my boyfriend, who's also having a channel, but I guess most Swedish content, some English content. I know he will be interviewing David Icke soon. It's called Strävan efter sanningen.
Yes.
And yeah, I will be trying to be out there, and for anyone who wants to listen, I will try to reach out. Basically.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to see you again. Yeah. And I'm very curious to follow your teachings and your journey and see where you end up. Okay, and everyone that's seen this video, thank you for listening, and we wish you a good time.
Yeah, and a nice Christmas.
Yes.
And New Year's.
Thank you. Bye.